Okay, so what about the second order effects? Well, at zero tax rate, we know that excess burden is convex. Because we know the marginal excess burden is zero, and we know as soon as we get away from zero tax rate, it's going to be positive. So we have a convex deadweight cost at zero tax rate. We can't generally say if it'll be convex at other tax rates. There's two terms for the second derivative of excess burden. First term has to be positive, and that reflects what I discussed earlier, that as we, at higher tax rates, we're eliminating higher and higher value, higher and higher surplus transactions from the market. We're moving into greater and greater opportunity cost. People have already exhausted their low opportunity cost ways of adjusting to this tax, and now all we're left with is the high opportunity cost. The second term could be either sign. This has to do with the rate of change of the slope of the demand curve. And it's possible that the demand curve is turning so sharply that, yeah, we're eliminating higher value transactions from the market, but we're not eliminating as many transactions from the market. And so the deadweight cost could in principle be convex at some higher tax rates. And you can see there's a T term on that second term. So at the higher tax rates, this could be more likely. So the presumption in economics is that it's convex. You should check that, and I'll give you some example today where I think it's worth checking. But this principle has been used a lot in both public economics and industrial organization. The idea of tax smoothing is optimal, that we should say have the income tax rate more or less constant from year to year, and if government spending changes, then we deal with that by borrowing or running up the debt or running down the debt, paying off the debt. The idea that we should have broad-based taxes rather than narrow-focused taxes, again, comes off of this convex idea. Ramsey pricing is a topic in industrial organization. How should a multi-product company charge for its products? Murphy loves talking about the grocery store. How should the grocery store price the individual products? And again, and Murphy's explanations have also, he didn't use the term, but also featured the deadweight costs. You know, the company wants to make money, but it doesn't want to create opportunity costs. The latter is going to scare away customers. So they try to do that in a minimum opportunity cost way. And then, as I said, when we looked at Becker's photo, that's how he formulated a theory of politics. So if we were to take a linear demand, there's the deadweight cost function. It's convex. The part that I drew is convex. In fact, it's quadratic, which is a special case of convex, of course. But then there's also, to illustrate some of these ideas, you can think of a policy, maybe a tax holiday policy that says, well, sometimes, most of the times we'll have a high tax rate and we'll be up there in the green, but sometimes we'll have a tax holiday and let people have a low tax rate. Is that a good policy? A lot of economists, based on this principle, said, no, it would be better to lower that everyday tax rate a little bit and eliminate the tax holiday and just spend all the days at the black dot, and that will have a lower average deadweight cost. The deadweight cost will be higher than it is on the tax holidays, but lower than it is on the other days. So this is the idea of tax smoothing or base broadening. Okay. Now linear demand and other demand curves have a choke point, and then now the deadweight cost function hits a maximum, and then higher tax rates no longer increase the excess burden, and that can matter for some issues. So we keep in mind our presumption is that the tax rate, the excess burden is convex, but especially at higher tax rates, there may be regions where it's concave. And then that sort of recommendation where I made might be turned on its head. I'm going to skip. Sometimes I talk about climate change, but we don't have enough time today. But that would be an example. The costs of climate change, are they convex or are they concave? Your policies about climate change, your optimal policy about climate change can be very different depending on which of those you're at. Okay, so now I want to raise the distinction